All right, Benji, well, welcome in. We are here for episode 6, and I still feel like I sound like a game show host. So
you're getting better at it every show.
Have you? I'm really bad about trying to figure out. I don't know if you do this, and the listeners will probably laugh. But I talk to myself in the mirror, and I talk to myself like when I'm driving on how I want to say things. When Emily and I were at our last church, Pastor Brandon wanted me to start doing transition, similar to what we do at our church now. Mm-hmm. And he basically told me that I had to start learning how to do that before I could start speaking to students when we were moving into student ministry. And so Emily will tell you a story that the first time I ever had to do transition on a Sunday, it's the first time I'd ever been up in front of anybody on a church. Just remember, I always said this fell far from the tree. Like I was not going to be a pastor like my dad.
Right.
And all the way to church. I was like, well, good morning, Cultivate. My name's Adam West. Good morning, Cultivate. Good morning, Cultivate Church. Good. And she was like, you got to quit.
Yeah, at some point you're just like, you got to roll with it. Just go with the punches and throw it out there. I mean, I will not disagree with you though that training yourself in front of the mirror is probably one of the best tools you have available to yourself.
I need to be better about it, especially even with this, because I have, and our listeners probably heard it, sometimes if I get caught up to my words, I kind of slow down, or, I'll say or okay. What's really funny is when I am working with your brother, he just always makes me nervous. I call him Benji every time I look at him, and it drives him crazy.
So I got a short story about that. You would not believe the number of people throughout the years that call me Brady, call him Benji. We just roll with it now. I mean, honestly, we just roll with it because at some point you're like, do they really know who I am?
But I'm sitting in front of him. That's the worst part. Like, he was like, I'm Brady. And I was like, I know. You're just making me nervous. It's like that all the time, every single time. I don't know what it is, but I just get caught up. So yeah, but yeah, so I do. I practice my word. I need to practice my opening, so that way one day our listeners don't make it sound like this is The Price is Right, and I'm like, hey, come on down, it's your turn.
Hey, speaking of like openers, you got a fresh do. For those of you that are watching on YouTube, Adam got a fresh cut.
Shout out to my boys at the Fade Parlor, downtown Birmingham. That's where we get it out. Raul, I'm proud of him. He's getting ready to open a second shop in Vestavia.
Nice.
But man, I found him probably 7 or 8 months ago, and I told him today, I was like, hey man, I took my lunch and I ran down to see my wife for lunch and get a cut real quick. And I was like, bro, you cut this on the greatest day. He said, he told me, he's like, you know what's funny is every time I see you post a video, all I ever think about is, man, that dude's hair looks fresh.
Well, what's his name again?
Raul.
So Raul, this is for you, buddy. If I was to come to your barbershop, you would probably laugh because we have two options. Option 1 is a slight trim. Option 2 is shave all the way. I don't have much hair left. And Sarah keeps telling me, my wife, she's like, are you going to do this at some point or not? And then she goes, don't do it, but maybe do it. So Raul,
I'm going to do it just to make her frustrated. Shave it off.
That's good stuff.
I'm gonna message him on Instagram tonight and just be like, hey man, we'll give you a shout out on the podcast, because he shares a lot, so we appreciate it. We got a lot of people sharing, and we're excited.
You can tell him that's why I wear the higher up hat. it takes care of.
That's the whole reason I didn't wear a hat today, because I was like, and if y'all see me not looking at Benji, it's because I'm looking at myself. I'm just admiring like the clean cut. Look, man. If there's one thing I love more than anything else, it's a fresh cut. Yeah. Like, it's probably my favorite thing.
Yeah. And by the way, I didn't mean to cut you. We do want to thank our listeners, because you guys are sharing the social media post. You're tagging other people. You're also, just listening and tuning in, whether it's on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, whatever.
Once we figure out what these analytics and Buzzsprout mean, we'll be able to tell you guys exactly how many followers we have.
But we do want to thank you. If you haven't subscribed, you can go to higheruppodcast.com, pick your favorite platform, and we appreciate it very, very much. Thank you.
And I mean, obviously it's way off subject for the topic of our podcast is, but hey, get excited if you are a YouTube person. Look, I'm a technology. I stay on top of it. YouTube recently made some changes. If you do listen to YouTube Music, It does allow you, we do the video, we do the vodcast, as I call it. But they've made some changes. So if you are using the music, YouTube Music app, you can actually now, they're pushing podcasts to the app, which basically what that means is they consider when you upload a video, they just pull the audio from it. You can either watch it or listen to it. But they make that just got announced as we recording now, got announced today that's official. So that's going to be cool.
That'd be really cool.
That people can do that. And I'm hoping later this summer, they're supposed to be making a lot of cool changes where when we post, it'll actually push straight to it, like just the audio part. So YouTube's trying to catch up. I mean, obviously podcasts are huge. I feel like everybody's got one. Somebody's talking about something. So it's a growing thing, man. Yeah. It's cool.
It's hard to keep up with social media and all the trends and such now. And that leads us to our topic today, Adam. Burnout.
What's your, I'm still trying to work on the title. So hopefully by the time you guys listen to this, I do it. But, just for today, I told Benji, I was like, hey, we're going to talk about from burnout to balance. Like what is that? And I honestly, I was talking, we were talking in the green room before we started. Man, that's where I'm at right now. Yeah. Sometimes I feel like the topics we talk about is the things that we're both walking through or dealing with. And, I'm hoping that when I talk to you guys about something that you're relating to it. Maybe you're dealing with it and you're like, oh man, this is where I'm at. This is what I'm dealing with. So yeah.
I mean, I'd be crazy to admit, Adam, sometimes. I mean, don't get me wrong. Owners, key managers, leaders, everyone experiences burnout at some point, and it's how we deal with it, control what we can. And we got some pretty good topics to talk through today, how we can maybe inspire you to help with this situation. So
I would think, especially you, man, like you never stop. Like your wife, we joke about it all the time. Like we give you the hardest time that you literally don't stop at all.
I had a conversation with one of our employees stop by the office today, and he was talking to me about, how he was doing his marketing strategy and all. And he actually, believe it or not, and he didn't know we were talking about this tonight, but he actually said, do you ever burn out? and I was like, it's funny you mentioned that. I do sometimes, but I don't. I think I look at it a different way. And he's like, what do you mean? I said, burnout is relative. We have a lot of responsibility to take care of people. We have a lot of responsibility to take care of our families. And at the end of the day, burnout's real.
Benji, what you guys will learn about Benji, he's a stinking positive Polly about everything. Like it's just annoying. That's why you and our director of business development get along so well, because the two of you are very similar. And it's just like, sometimes you just want to be negative. Like you just feel it inside you and you're just like, can you just be negative with me? But we always joke with you that you do more than you should, that you do a lot. So that's why I was thinking, I'm like, look, yours is from an entrepreneur standpoint.
Yeah.
I think that's something that might be relevant, that honestly is relevant with entrepreneurs, because you probably feel like you should do it all. I was actually talking, back to it. I was talking to Raul today when we were at the barbershop, and I was telling him, he's like, so what you guys talking about? I was like, I don't know, I'm thinking about talking about burnout, and and I was talking to him, he's getting ready to open a new shop. I'm like, so what are you going to do? Like, are you handling the scheduling? And he's like, man, I got one of the guys in the shop. He's like, just talking through, what he's thinking he might do. And I was like, man, how do you do it? He's like, man, I need to learn to let go and let somebody else, because I'm a micromanager. I was like, dude, it's exactly where I'm at. And I was like, it's not that I don't trust other people. I just feel like nobody works the way that I work.
Hey, guess what?
And that's not a knock on anybody, but
everyone crosses that bridge at some point.
They have to. But I just told him, I was like, man, Benji, I told him, I said, look, we have a lot of amazing people on our team. So I don't want anybody to ever feel like I'm thinking like, oh, I'm better than this person. I know when I do something, it's going to be done the way that it should be, or that I feel like it should be. So that's sometimes.
So I would pose this question to you real quick.
Okay.
If someone can get the results that you need or you want, and they don't get there the way you get there, do you really care?
Well, no, because you get the job done.
Exactly.
Right.
So that's what I had to learn. I had to learn that, you want to do so much. Like I take social media, for instance. Okay.
I was going to use the church as an example with pictures. So I'll let you get that, and we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah, no, it's good, because we're on the same page. So think about this, social media. Okay. I used to run the social media for our company. Let me back up. I attempted to run social media for our company.
For those of you that are listening, if you could see my face right now.
and
this man was posting once a month for the church.
Go
a month.
Go back 2 to 3 years ago and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about if you follow us on
Please don't scroll back. That's all I'm asking you. We worked really hard. Don't scroll back.
But we did leave it for the very few analytics we had of sharing and insight. So
to be fair, though, it wasn't as relevant as it is now.
But it was honestly, it was difficult for me to give up even then because I was like, man, I really want to own this. I want to do it. And one day I was like, you know what? I can't do it all. So that's what I was saying. If you get the same result, if the end result becomes what you want, should we say, and they don't take the path that you would have taken, everything will be okay.
Yeah. I have trouble with it because I don't consider, I told my wife this today, actually, when I was talking to her. I don't ever consider myself a professional when it comes to photography. Photography I feel like is my second. Now, it's funny because I enjoy pictures almost more than video sometimes, but I'm better at video. But I get people asking me questions. Well, how do you do this? And why do you take pictures like this? And can you teach me how to do this? And I'm like, I'm not a professional. Like this, so
he is a professional.
But I say that because I struggle. And for anybody that's listening that serves on our photography team, I struggle with not wanting to take pictures on Sundays. It's how I serve. And this is something that you and I talk about a lot because we tell you that you need to, and you're like, I enjoy serving. I enjoy it. I'm like, yeah, you need to sit with your wife one Sunday, Benji.
And I've done that recently.
You have. I was shocked. I was utterly in shock when I came around the corner to take pictures.
I think you were standing in shock.
There. She was in shock. It was hilarious. But it's not that I don't trust other people to do it. We've got some very talented people.
Oh, yeah,
I don't know. I think in my head, I'm running through and I know, well, I need to get a picture of our greeter and I need to get a picture of kids looking happy. And so I don't know. I've always done that. I think it goes back to like what I was talking, at the barbershop today. It's just micromanaging, and it's I know that I will get what I need for the week, because, and the other side is a lot of the times during the week when I am serving and I'm taking pictures, I'm mentally planning what I want to want to use. Like,
well, you know what the end result is. You're thinking
what story do I want to tell?
Exactly.
So, but that's where the burnout comes from and those things. And so just for those of you, I'm sure everybody knows what burnout is. I think every one of us dealt with burnout in one way or another, especially during the pandemic.
Yeah.
We were burned out about being at home. We were burned out about wearing masks.
Burned
out about this.
Since you said that, so it's funny though, because people used to complain because they were so they didn't have enough home time, and then when the pandemic hit, everyone was home, and then when about a year in, everybody was ready to go back to normalcy.
We're human, man. We just gotta have something to complain about.
That's exactly right.
That's what it is. But burnout is a state of physical, emotional, and mental exhaustion. I think that's something that's important to look at. It talks about that it's excessive and prolonged stress, particularly relating to work or caregiving responsibilities. And that caregiving can be a very broad term. So these are some of the things, and it just talks about that burnout can have a significant impact, and I'm reading directly from what the definition was, on individuals' overall well-being, mental health, job performance, and quality of life. So it has effects on what you deal with. And here's the thing. You don't even have to be a full-time employee to deal with burnout. Like, you don't have to have a career. I'm going to be honest with you. You could be a stay-at-home dad. You could be a stay-at-home mom. You could be a single mom, a single dad. You could be a family man that's got a big family that stays busy. You could be someone like you, Benji, an entrepreneur of a large company. You could be an entrepreneur of a small company.
Yeah, or many companies.
Or anything. Burnout. You could be the pastor of the church. You could be somebody that you've got 50 people below you that can help manage whatever it is, and you're gonna you experience burnout. So I feel like that's important to look at, because society wise, I feel like we've gotten better.
Yeah.
At I'll admit I was bad about it too. Like when people started talking about mental health, like I was like, oh my gosh, like just suck it up, suck it up, just do it. But the more you think about it, like that was where my mindset was at first until I started experiencing these things. And I'm like, no, it's not just sucking it up. Like you try so hard to get yourself out of this mode. And I don't want to say depression because I'm not anybody that works in the medical field. I don't have any of those trainings or anything like that. But I feel like sometimes and I can't say if I've ever experienced what depression truly feels like. I know there's people that it really affects their life.
Sure.
There are moments where I'm like, if this is what depression is, like, it's just like that to me is the only way I can explain it.
Well, I think to your point, I think a lot of people look at it as a never ending cycle, right? They're trying to figure out how can I get ahead? How can I get things accomplished? What does my list look like today? And we kind of on our shows, we talk about some personal stories, here, I have one for you. I'll never forget in the mid 2000s, I was trying to figure out how to get myself organized because I would come into the office every single day and I would look up and I'd go, what do I got to get done today? And so I'd start writing my list out, right? And man, I felt like every day when I went home, I was getting nothing accomplished. Or for that matter, I misplaced my piece of paper, wherever it might have gone. And you look up and you got the telephone sitting on top of it. Back then we didn't really have, we had two-way Nextel radios. But beep, beep. Beep, beep.
That's all I can think about.
I hated those things. And I one day was like, man, I have got to figure out a way to get better organized. And I'm not saying you still don't have burnout from this, but you'll get the idea here in a second.
Yeah.
So my dad, he was like, man, you need to try to read this book. And I was like, I ain't reading this. I don't read books. And he goes, it's called Eat the Frog. Well, the name caught my attention. And I'm telling you, it was really skinny, big letters. And basically it was exactly what we use in our organization today called traction with EOS and big rocks and, what the little rocks and so on and so forth. Here's how it works. You have a calendar of set appointments every day that you want to get done. Yep. You have a task list of items that you would like to get accomplished. Some people don't put time frames on them. I choose to put time frames on them because it helps hold me accountable to the process.
I'm the same way. It helps me know that I got to get it done by this date.
Yeah, and maybe even this time, right?
It sounds very similar to the program that your brother has a setup on. I think it's called my 90. We always joke about what it's called, the 90 or my 90.
Correct.
Because I always joke with him when he's like, "Hey, we need to do this project." I'm like, "Oh, is this a shrub, or are we adding a bush or a tree? Am I moving a rock?" He's like, "It's a rock, Adam. You're moving. It's a rock."
Well, that's the thing. Take a big jar. Okay, this is exactly what Eat the Frog talked about. Take a big jar, and you're going to put a big rock in the middle of the jar. Yep. Well, you still have space left around that big rock. So now what you're going to do is you're going to take some pebbles, and you're going to fill that jar up with pebbles. Even then, you still have holes to fill in your day. Next thing you do is you pour sand into it, right? The sand goes in, it fills holes even more. So now there's only one thing left you could do, and that's pour water into it to fill it up. Okay,
it's funny.
That's what's left over.
It's funny listening to the two of y'all explain it like the exact same way.
Well, it's true. Think about this. The same. We're talking about the 90 now EOS traction system.
Yeah.
By the way, if you haven't read the book of traction, great book out there. You might want to consider doing it.
Is that where the program came from that we're using?
Well,
is that why we started instituting that?
I think what they've done is they've just every 10 to 20 years, it's like anything else, it just morphs into a newer way of doing it. Same process.
We've gone through several different ways to do things, and each one has worked during its time.
Right.
And then, for the longest time, we were using the app that kept track of our meetings.
Yep.
And then it would send you an update. Well, we don't use that anymore.
Right.
Well, now we do it in the 90. And then we've transitioned to finding different things that help us complete our task the way that we need to. Evolving.
And I think going along with that concept I was talking about with a calendar and a task list. A calendar and a task list. Even Sarah at home, she has a calendar and a task list of things she does, during the day. We're very fortunate. She gets to stay home, make sure the kids get where they need to go. Now we have 3 of them. Luckily, one of them drives now, so that's even better. I have to take, one to school and then one to this practice, and she's doing the same. But we also have. Okay, I'll give you another case in point. Look at financial. Dave Ramsey, the king of debt. King of debt. Reduce your debt. I believe people get, part of the reason they have, this issue of burnout is financially they're stuck. They can't go anywhere, right? Or they don't feel like they can. So they don't really find financial peace because they don't really work a budget. They don't really operate. But guess what? 20 years ago, 25 years ago, it was another guy named Larry Burkett. It was the Dave Ramsey of that time. It was the same processes. Dave Ramsey just took them and one-upped it. Same thing with Traction and Eat the Frog. So my point is this: working a calendar, working a task list, feeling like you have a sense of obligation to yourself to stay on track, I believe helps people become less, will somewhat feel less of a burnout because they feel like they're actually accomplishing things. And guess what? If you don't get an item or 2 or 3 done, you roll it to the next day.
Yeah.
And try to get it accomplished.
Well, and I think all that's important for us to look at because, you got to figure out how to handle it. But what are some things, let's think about some things that are causing burnout. Let's talk about things that are pushing toward. We talked about now, you and I were talking about before. I'm not going to say that I'm burnt out right now, but I was thinking man, we've got a bunch of projects going on at our mitigation company right now. Even today, I told you 10 times, I was like, hey, I'm going to sit down and, take lunch. I'm going to work on some show notes, and I never had a chance to. It was like meeting this, somebody needed that. It was like nonstop. And so I was telling you, we're dealing with that. And then
curveball.
I've got all the
curveball.
Curveball. So slowing that down. Then you look at the next thing, we've got a lot going on with the church, and people need this and they need that, and we need to have this, and we need to put this in place, and we need to have this implication, and then, we haven't met in this long, and we need to have this meeting. And I'm like, well, that meeting happens during this time. And so you think about, you're adding all those pieces in, and then because somebody's like, I need this graphic, or I need this video or this picture. So you get that. And then I was telling you, I was like, just thinking through it, we're doing this podcast, so we're working through all these pieces, and it's not just throw it up, record it, and toss it online. It's you get it, you pull it down, you edit it, you make sure that it sounds good, that it sounds professional, it sounds clean.
Yep.
Then you got to upload it. Well, then you got to work it. Luckily, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm here for some AI. I am here for some AI.
Chat GPT, is that what they call it?
Oh man, it's like here's what I tell people all the time. You either embrace technology, you're either gonna you're either gonna die using it or die not using it.
Yeah, you're right.
Because your competitors are going to be using it, so you might as well use it to your benefit. But we got to write the show notes, and we got to write what the episode's about. And then I was talking well, then I'm doing some side stuff for some buddies of mine, and I'm helping them with their business, and then not on that, I'm helping some other people with their podcasts. So it's and then that's not even including family time.
Yeah, that's exactly. You're right.
And that needs to come not almost. It does. It needs to come before everything else.
Yeah.
I made a video for Emily this week that I posted, and I just I kid you not, I was ridiculous. I laid in bed when I made it Monday night. Both the girls wanted to come downstairs. They climbed in bed with us. Everybody had fallen asleep. I probably watched that reel 50 times in a row because all I could think about was like, gosh, how much longer do I have on the side? So it starts all this weight, and it starts, bearing down on you, and you start thinking all these, and the burnout starts to come. Like, well, man, should I get rid of doing this? Well, we got other people that can do the church stuff, or I got other people that can do the podcast. Like, what if I start pulling this and getting rid of this and moving this and doing this? And
we call that sometimes, Adam, we call it professional plate spinners, right? You got 7 to 10 different things you're trying to figure out. They're spinning all these plates, and all of a sudden, you find yourself just looking at the plate spinning, right?
Yep.
And then nothing gets accomplished because you got so much piling up on the plate. You got so much piling up that it just, how in the world am I going to get this to go down? How am I going to get the list to go down? Whatever. So I totally get it.
But the tough thing with it is I feel like culture is getting better. I really do. But I also feel like we're in a culture that if you're not, especially with social media, if you're not
keeping up with it,
just keeping up.
Yeah.
And just constantly posting stuff, like constant, you're falling behind. And sometimes it feels like that in the business world. Well, take, for instance, this is a topic, and this is a great topic for you as an owner, as a entrepreneur that manages companies of we have like 220 something people, not including, that's just one company.
Right.
But things like quiet quitting, like you hear that term. Is that a negative for you? Is that a negative term? And real quick, before you even answer that, for those people that don't know what that is, you may have heard the terminology and not understand. Quiet quitting means you don't quit your job or quit what you're doing. It basically just means that you quit going above and beyond.
Right.
Like you quit doing more than you were hired to do. And before I kind of give my take, like I wanted to see what you thought. Like I told you before we started, like, hey, I'm going to hit you with this. I want you to be ready. But like when you hear that term, is that a negative term? Like for you as a business owner, do you feel like that's negative, or do you be honest with it? Like, do you expect someone to do more, or do you expect them to say, hey, I hired you to do A, B, and C. I'm not expecting you to do D through Z. If you do, great. If it helps us, wonderful.
Right.
But
no, that's a great question. So I'll throw it to you like this. Matter of fact, the gentleman today that came and approached me, he asked me about, do you ever burn out? He also asked the question, how in the world do you and your brother stay on top of everything? Right. Mm-hmm. And I said, honestly,
that's a great question.
We really don't stay on top of everything. It's almost impossible to stay on top of everything. That's why we have different leaders in the organization that can help us accomplish those things. Mm-hmm. So do I look at it as a negative thing? I do not. And I'll give you an example. I'll never forget Brady and I had a conversation, probably 18 months ago now. It was probably early 2022. We had a conversation about where we were going to help take this company. What are we going to do to get there? Well, how are we going to, what processes do we have to put in place? I mean, he and I had a heart-to-heart discussion. We said, we have to make sure that we don't get ahead of ourselves, okay? Because as a visionary of a company, I can throw all these ideas. Matter of fact, our director of business development you're talking about, we call it throwing spaghetti on the wall. If the pasta sticks, we're going to try to do something about it. My old philosophy was, okay, now that we've thrown spaghetti at the wall and it's stuck, what do we got to do now to make it work today? Yeah. Where my brothers helped teach me is he said, it's a big ship. You got to be careful how fast you put those pieces into motion, because now you're taking the shotgun approach in a wrong approach, right? Yeah. What we want to do is we want to make sure that everybody's prepared to get to that point. How do we help them get prepared to get to that point? Well, there's process 1, process 2, process 3 put in place. Take you for example, right? You called me up recently and you said, hey, I've got this social media thing. We've got to make sure from a branding perspective, we're doing things consistent and right. And we never really had a process for people to follow 1, 2, 3. If we would have blasted that out there to people, it'd been a culture shock in a good way. It'd have been a culture shock. But what we did is we put processes in place to help line us up, to make sure to hold us accountable to the process. Now it's no excuse how the process should work. So is it a negative thing for me? No. And the reason why is because I understand sometimes people can get burnt out, and there has to be a balance to everything. My job is to make sure we control the narrative. Unless it's an emergency situation, we got to do this right now, which doesn't happen all the time. If that's the case, we're probably bad planners, be honest with you.
Yeah, because when I think about it and I think about quiet quitting, I feel like you can go both ways with it. Yeah, sure. Like, oh, well, you're quitting. I'm like, but I was hired to do this job and this job, and it's going to take up X amount of time. So say you're hired to do A, B, and C. Well, it's probably going to take up 40 hours of your time. It's going to take up the bulk of your week. Well, now if I'm doing D, E, F, just down the line, it gets to where it makes it harder. And then what ends up happening is I feel like if you're somebody or if you're a company that expects people to do more than they were hired to do, obviously I understand getting ahead. Yeah. And showing that you have initiative and showing that you may have to put the extra effort in. Like to me, that's not doing more than you've been hired to do. That's called hustling.
That's right.
And you're hustling to show you. That's what I feel like a lot of days. When I even walk through my own burnout, I feel like I walk through it because I feel like I'm just trying to hustle more than I should be. And the problem is a lot of that too is there's so much that you're seeing other people do that you almost feel like you have to. I had somebody the other day that I saw, they posted a video about it, and it said that on their phone they put create more, consume less.
Oh.
And so every time they pick their phone up, it's like, don't get on TikTok, don't get on Instagram. Yes, great ideas come from it.
Right.
Create more, consume less. And so what I mean by that is that it pushes you into a position where you're constantly seeing what other people are doing. And it kind of goes back to what we talked about, a little bit with just dealing with, comparison.
Right.
But
by the way, if you have not listened to the Comparison Culture podcast that we did a few episodes ago, I encourage you to go back. We have gotten so much response from that one episode. People, again, DMing, emailing, just word of mouth, text, whatever.
Yeah.
It can really help you. So go back and check it out.
But yeah, I mean, definitely listen to that because that helps you. I mean, we talked about, but comparison also leads to burnout.
Absolutely, it does.
Because you're like, well, dang, they're doing this and I need to do that, or I need to get here. So, I mean, I think sometimes too, if you're somebody that's struggling with burnout and you're like, well, my company's making me do more than I should. Well, I think you need to ask yourself a couple questions. First of all, you need to ask yourself, are they making you do it? Or are you making yourself do it?
Are you putting it on yourself?
Are you putting it on yourself? Because that's something that we talk about all the time with our team. Like, hold on, I didn't ask you to do this. You just felt like to do it, you need to do it, right? And so are you doing that? And then, or the other question you need to ask yourself is, where do I see myself? Like, where do I want to be? What do I want to do? I knew I didn't want to just stay in to be in a marketing support coordinator. I want to move on up. And we talked about today, like with everything that's been happening, and we're adding in branding, digital marketing, social media, handling events. Like it almost is moving it from a director of digital marketing to almost a director of marketing because our director of business development handles that side of it.
Correct.
Because marketing's moved into, to me, different areas. I mean, you've got the people that are building relationships with our with who we want to do business with, whether that's commercial, residential, and then you've also got the folks on my side that are handling the content that we use, whether that's pictures,
that's right,
whether that's flyer. I mean, content can be anything. It doesn't mean it's videos and pictures. It can be all that stuff. So I think those are some of the things you need to look at yourself. What are you doing to yourself? Is it something that if the company's done it to you, if they're pushing you that, then maybe you need to say, hey, this might not be the culture for me. Yeah. This might not, especially if you're somebody with a family. That's tough. I mean, I'll be honest. If I didn't have a wife and kids, I would just bury myself into it because what else do I have to do?
Right. Sure.
That's why I always talk about some days I wish I hadn't wasted my younger years going out and partying and buying video games and clothes and this. Like I should have bought a camera. I should have spent money in that. I should have started working on myself then, so I could be further along than I am now with my skill set.
Well, I can tell you this too to help you with that, and someone listening may understand this or want to understand it.
You're about to make another podcast topic. I can hear it.
Maybe if you look at it this way, from a manager owner perspective, all right, and again I'm talking about myself. And then you, the manager leader, working together, okay, where you can create less burnout and better balance is we come to an agreement to say, okay, what is the top priority right now? Yeah. Because, as a matter of fact, my buddy Jeff, he's in Dallas, Texas, great one of our best friends. He and I had this conversation several months ago. They're in the car manufacturing business, and they do high end. Like restoration of Mustangs and things like that. A very successful company. And he and I were talking about this, and he was like, well, I need to do this with our employees, this and our employees. And I said, think about this. You can only give someone so much because if you give them so much on their plate, they're going to either burn out or they're not going to understand what we're really looking for as leaders and owners. And he said, it's not a bad way to think of it. Because if I give you, Adam, too much stuff to do, then you're going, again, go back to professional plate spinner. Which one is more important than the other one?
It's a quality over quantity mindset. That was one of the things when we first started doing any type of content creation. Like when I came onto the team and we started, producing videos and producing pictures, our team didn't understand the concept, and they were like, "Oh, you can knock out this and get it done," and like, I need this by the end of the day. Like,
yeah, it don't work like that.
You can do that, and there are times and place for that. Like if you're handling an event, if you're doing a sporting event or you're doing a concert or like a conference. Yeah, but you walk into that knowing that's your role. Like, hey, I know what I need to film. I don't need to be going and doing extra things. I need to get what I've done so I can get the project, get it done, and get it ready for tonight.
Yep.
There are those moments. It's the same thing with any media person that works in sports. Like, think about it. Like, look at your favorite NBA team. Like right now, the finals are going on. They're constantly posting through the game.
I have to admit,
unless their team starts to get terrible, and then you'll notice they just stop, like the Celtics did. I'm still hurt from that one.
I'm pulling for the underdogs, the Heat.
Oh man, I'd like to see the Nuggets pull it out, but this neither here nor there. I digress. But
you had to give a team to choose.
I know.
You have to do it.
I know. We got to throw it in there, but we walked through that with our team. It was a growing process. They had to understand. We had to create systems, SOPs, standard operating procedures. Like, this is our process. Mm-hmm. We had to create these things in place because we had to say, hey guys, look, y'all have a lot of great ideas and we want to make sure we don't lose any of it. So I'm going to create y'all a project list, and I want you to go in and I want you to put every video you want to do. Anything you have an idea of, whether it's how to put your PP on or how to load your van or how to clean. I mean, we went through everything part of mitigation and restoration. What are all the different things? Like, put on your processes. Yeah. Then we'll figure out what's important in the timeline that goes with it. And we'll start knocking them out. But understand, it's not you put it in this morning, it'll be ready to go by tonight. Like, it's not how it works.
Well, that's not fair to either party, right?
No, because what's going to happen is, I feel and we've talked about this before. Like, I've sent projects to you guys, and you'll send back, Adam, this is misspelled. Like, hey, you missed this cut. Like, hey, this doesn't look good. Like, hey, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You and I have had this conversation. I'm like, sorry, I'm just rushed. And you're like, you need to slow down.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And not worry about it. It is quality, not quality. At that point, it's not quality over quantity. It's quality over speed. Like,
right.
Yes. Be efficient. Don't take a week to work on one video that you don't. That's a 60-second video. But let's get it done and let's do it right. So when we get that first draft, we're not having to worry about, oh, well, you misspelled this word.
Right.
Or you did this, or the audio's messed up here. Take your time, walk through it, fix those pieces. And those are all things you had to do. But then you also don't want to put so much on whoever's creating your content or any project. I'm using content because that's who I am. But whatever it is, you don't want them to feel like, oh, I got to get this done and I got to get this here. So like you said, I think it's a great way for you to say it's not fair to either party. Yeah. You need to do it. You need to do it correctly. And that's what hurts. It causes the burnout. But think about it. What you just said, it causes burnout for both sides.
It does.
Because then you're like, well, I mean, I can't get what I need. And then you get frustrated because they're like, well, you said you would get this project done and you didn't. And you said it would be here and then I got it. And it's not what I thought it would be. Like, it didn't look as good. So there's a lot of things that go into play.
Yeah, we call it false expectations. I mean, if you don't both agree, okay, here's a quote project, here's a task to get done. When do you think you can get it done by? Mm-hmm. And then we play it out. Again, you're going to have some of those emergency situations, but if you have too many emergency situations, again, that's bad planning. that's bad planning by the leader and the person doing the task.
And full transparency, I can tell you that's been our undoing the past year. Is we work so hard to get it done, we don't worry about it. We finally one day said, all right, guys, this is who we are. We feel like we're one of the best, if not the best. Let's do it right the first time and quit trying to let's quit making shortcuts.
Mm-hmm. Well, you were on our church team. You were very instrumental from our creative team. Let's say it's outside of the church staff meeting that they have, but from a creative team, you and Nathan and Nick and Brian were, hey, we need to all meet, once every other week. Just talk about upcoming things. Yeah,
Nate's driving that boat, man.
Yeah, and that's good though because somebody's got to keep us on track, right? What happens is, since we've started meeting, we don't. expect each other. We don't expect anybody to get it done yesterday. Hey, what's the expectation? We're going to get it done by the next meeting, or we're going to have it done by next Thursday. And everybody's achieving to the same goal. If we can do that and we set expectations together, everyone wins. So it creates less burnout because now that person's not going, man, I got to get this done yesterday. I got to get it finished. So we all stay on track with each other.
Well, it creates expectations for your team. I mean, think about it. That was one of the things Nick and I talked about when we were staying in the new kids building. Like, for those of y'all that don't know, I mean, we'd love for you to check us out. The Church at Chelsea Westover. We just got a brand new kids building. We're excited about what God's going to do with it. But I remember, he and I have had our own ups and downs. We've talked about it on the podcast before. Like Nick and I are like oil and water. He's, I feel like I'm extremely organized and, I feel like I have everything planned out, and he does too, but he's organized chaos and it stresses me out. And so, so we've been working to try and fix that relationship with the two of us. Be like, all right, he and I had that conversation. I was like, look, he and I, we got to work together. Like, we're both here to support Benji. We're both here to drive what he's doing. We've got to figure out how to make this work. And so we were standing there in the church one day, and I was like, or in the building, I think it was like a couple weeks ago. And I told him, I was like, man, do you think people are ready for this? I said, just from an honest standpoint, do you think our church is ready for this? And I said, because, bro, this is going to up the ante.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, there is nothing. We've got some phenomenal churches in our city. Church of the Highlands, you got Church of Brook Hills, you got, I throw our old church in there, Cultivate Church. I mean, I know I'm missing a ton. Like, there's a lot of really good churches. I help work with a church called Christian Life Center. I serve with them, sometimes take pictures. We've got some amazing churches.
Yeah.
And I told him, I was like, man, but there's nothing on this side of town like this. I said, not just the church, but is our team ready? Like, we're doubling everything. Yeah. I mean, we've now got greeters at the front door, and we've got greeters at the kids building.
Yeah.
We've got check-in at Info Central, and we've got check-in at the kids center. So I was, I was like, man, he's like, man, we're gonna have to be ready. And he's like, we're gonna have to kind of learn quick how to figure these things out because we're growing. And so it's that same mentality of adapt or die. Like, we've got to do this. We've got to adapt.
That's a good point because, going back to burnout, I mean, I remember the days that I did everything you're talking about. I was the guy that was leading worship. I was the guy that was making sure the words in ProPresenter were being done properly at our church. That
was my point. Like, we can't, we've gone so long with having, and our team has grown tremendously.
Oh, yeah.
Especially from the church. I mean, when we meet before church in the morning, that's math. That group is
It seems like there's 50, 60 people on serve team.
It feels like it grows every Sunday. I mean, think about it. We couldn't fit in we met in the kids building last week because it was new.
Yeah.
And I'm like, y'all, we can't do this. Like, we ain't got enough room in this place, But, that and that's what I was trying to speak to. And you hit it on the head when you said that. But, well, now you go from not just having somebody that's running ProPresenter for the church. Well, now we got to have somebody that's running ProPresenter for kids.
And that's why I suggested we're going to train the kids to help us.
You want the kids to learn how to do it, but you still got to have adults there. So that's what I'm saying. Like, when you add these things in, it's where you've got to be ready and to be able to, you got to have strategy in place. Yeah. There's got to be strategy in place. And that's something for you to think about, whether you're somebody right now that's listening, that's a leader, or somebody that's, maybe you're a kids pastor, maybe you're a youth pastor. And it doesn't even have to be church related. Maybe it's something in your business. You're like, all right, we're adding a new building. We're adding a new, like I was talking with my barber today, he's adding a new location. So now he's like, I got to find people to do it. And I literally told him, you and I talked about it a few weeks ago. We were just talking in the office, and you said, growth is amazing, but more people brings more problems.
That's right. It's true.
So it's that, but you've got to do those things to keep yourself from burning out, because you can't do everything. It's where I'm at now. Like, somebody asked me something the other day. Oh, it was our youth pastor. We give him a hard time about doing announcements. He feels like he's terrible at it. I'm like, bro, you're a great communicator. You're a great communicator. Don't stress. It's announcements. That's it, man. All you're doing is telling church what's going on. He's like, man, why don't you could do it for me. Like, you're better at it. I'm like, dude, I cannot spiritually get my heart ready to run around for 3 songs to take pictures and come back.
Yeah.
So, but I'm at that point where, as I was telling him, I was just thinking, I'm like, I can't be in the kids building the whole time.
Yeah.
I can't be in the main building the whole time. Like, I'm going to have to start I'm going to have to start letting some of these other folks do it. I'm going to have to and I'm going to have to trust it. The problem is like most of the gear's mine, and it just makes me nervous.
Oh, I understand that.
I'm going to be honest with you. Like I would say that to anybody. It just makes me nervous to hand things that has taken me years to get together.
Yeah.
So those are just pieces that go into play.
So,
I know I got way off subject.
No,
but
it's just
that
good.
growth. Protect it.
You have to protect it, and people will wonder, kind of as we wrap the show up, how does someone cope with burnout, right? Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, I believe you need to try to come to an agreement with whoever your leader may be, whatever role that may play. Come to an agreement together that you're going to get these things accomplished X plus Y by when, right? Whatever that takes to get there.
Figure out what's the most important thing. And maybe for you, that's the easiest thing. Maybe right now you're like, all right, I can get these things done quicker.
Yep.
Or maybe it's like, hey, this will take longer, but it's more important.
Right. Life is not an emergency. Life is a journey. It's not an emergency. If we can accomplish the hot list items first, great.
Yep.
If not, let's figure out a projection date and what have you.
What's going to make your most impact? Whether that's for your business, for your church, for you yourself. What would make the most impact for in that situation, that project?
Yeah, and I think the second thing too, Adam, is if someone's struggling with burnout, just like you talked about at the beginning of this episode, talk with your leader about it. Let them know, because maybe there is a load situation that the leader can help not take away, but take off to help you get some things accomplished where you can get them back under control. That's a big thing. Surround yourself with people that can help you. But at the same time, if you don't ever talk about it, if you don't ever mention it, if you don't ever bring it up, the leader never knows that person, like you were talking about, struggling with burnout. You would never know that I'm struggling with burnout. What can we do to help each other?
Yeah. You got to be willing to address it. I think especially these days, I feel like it's gotten better to be able to talk about things. I feel like we're moving into a culture where it's almost a given. Like, hey, what's going on? That was something we talked about.
Communication.
I was talking about that. I couldn't tell you what the name of his title is, but we were talking about it today at the office, and I was like, man, I feel like sometimes like our enterprise team, like our overall team, we need to get together and just talk about what's going on.
Yeah.
Like, we're all spread out. We're all over. We're running multiple teams. But to me, that's where it talks about communicating, is just being like, all right, y'all. Like, even if you don't get anything planned, where you are right now, like maybe it's something where you just need to get with your team or who you're working with and just have a conversation about, y'all, I'm struggling with this right now.
Yeah. But it's okay to bring it up, because here's the deal. You surround yourself again with those people that we call it the safe zone, right? Whatever we talk about is a safe zone. It's nothing. Think of life struggles. People struggle with things all the time. If we don't ever bring them up, we don't ever know someone's struggling with something, so we can help walk them through that process.
I can't tell you how many times I hear Benji say, "This is between you, me, and the wall."
Yeah,
this is between you, me, and the wall. You, me, and the fence post. So it's like it's in this room. So and create groups. That's the other thing. Like talking in circles. Even our creative group one day, like we were blowing it up on a Sunday morning, and I was just trying to be honest. I was like, guys, like, I know these things need to get fixed, but
there's not
we got to quit texting during church. I was like, the pastor's talking about something I struggle with. He was talking about just doing something simple, like bottom shelf, doing a devotion. And I was like, y'all, this is the biggest thing I struggle with. I was like, I can listen to podcasts all day. I listen to them when I leave for the gym in the morning. I listen to ours all the way through. I listen to other people's all the way through. And, I was like, I struggle with devotion. And I told you I had to. That's why I feel like that group is a safe space. I was like, guys, please don't judge me. Like, I don't want y'all to think I'm being a jerk. Let's chat after church.
Yeah. But that's why we've surrounded ourselves with each other to have that.
Nobody got upset.
We could have those conversations openly,
And even afterwards, Nick was like, man, I should have thought about that. Like, he was like, that's where I'm at too. And he wasn't the one messing. He was like, no, you're right. Because I do the same thing. But it's that having that safe space with people that are like, I don't realize if I tell you something, I'm not coming at you sideways.
You know what's funny is we were all thinking what you texted. I mean, it's the truth, because honestly,
it was something so simple. Remember, it was simple. Like, it was like what it was is we were having trouble with the sign or our middle TV in the lobby wasn't matching up with what was being said. And it was something so small. We found out somebody had turned it to YouTube TV or something.
Like a 30-second delay or something.
So it was a 30-second delay. And I'm like, guys, this ain't right. Like, so anyways, but it still was serving the purpose. Like nobody's sitting in the lobby watching.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, it's just finding that group of people that you can have that conversation with. Look, here's the other thing. Like, we want to hear from you guys.
Yeah,
like, we want to know, shoot us a DM, whether that's on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. Like, show it. Like, what are you dealing with? Like, do you have burnout? Is there something that you're walking through? Or if you have questions, like if you have questions about us, if you have a topic you want us to cover, I mean, let us know. Like, we want to read those things. If you have something that like I said, we're not going to share. This is the same thing we said. It's a safe space. Nobody's going to know. But if you got something that you want us to share, or if you got something that you're walking through right now and you're like, hey, how do I handle this? We'll take the first 10 minutes of the episode next time we record and we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
Even if it's not dealing with what we're talking, the topic, or you never know. The question you may ask might turn into a whole episode.
May do it. I mean, that's the beauty of this. People are bringing things up all the time, and we just want to, again, be an inspiration to all of you. We want you to live a higher up life with everything that you possibly can. We don't want you to deal with burnout if you don't have to. We know the struggle is real. You've heard from both of us. We struggled with that, and
I guarantee you, there's people right now you're walking through their struggle. Like take your pastor for instance. Everybody thinks nobody ever worries about your pastor.
Yeah,
that's something we talk about with our pastor, is that he deals with the exact same thing that we're all dealing with, but we've got to ask him about it.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you one case in point before we close the episode. I mean, he texted me today and he said, "Hey, I've got this camp coming up we got kids camp coming up, we got student camp coming up, we got this. I'm preparing my messages. I've already got my outline. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to do this." He said,
VBS is coming.
Yeah, he goes, "Hey, would you mind writing the Father's Day blog for that Sunday?" I said, "Man, I got you covered. No problem. I'll take
Chat GWAP.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought about. I said, "I'm gonna get Adam and tell me how to do that Chat GWAP." But anyway,
I need you to write a biblical blog about Father's Day, please.
He actually said, "Hey, just pray for me, because I'm feeling a little overwhelmed with all the things coming at us because it's summertime with the kids and the camps and all." I said, "Hey, no problem, man. I got you covered. We'll take care of it. No big deal."
Yeah. Good stuff, man. Good topics. We hope you guys are getting something from it. But you know what? We know we've gone over a little bit. We always try to tell you we're going to shoot for about 45 minutes. But a good topic, good talking. So, but all right, we love y'all. We appreciate y'all listening. Same thing we tell you every single week. Y'all go live a higher up life. Hey, Benji and I want to take a moment and just thank you for listening to the Higher Up Podcast. We really hope you enjoyed today's episode and just learned some valuable insights to help improve your own life. Hey, if you found today's episode helpful, we would be grateful if you could take a moment and rate us 5 stars on Spotify. Or if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, we just want to know what you think about the show. Either way, when you leave us a review, you're helping us grow our network and reach more people with our message. Remember, our mission is to empower you in every aspect of your life, and we're thankful for your support. We've got new episodes of the Higher Up Podcast dropping every other Thursday, so take a second and turn on notifications to stay in the loop. Make sure that you follow us on your favorite social media platforms to stay connected with our community. We just want to thank you again for listening, and we look forward to having you join us again on the Higher Up Podcast.